Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to create a video talking about our goal of paying down our mortgage to be able to drop the PMI insurance and kind of go into a little bit more detail on that process and our mindset and kind of where we're at as we're now halfway through the year because we've already made our June payment. So the goal is to be able to drop the PMI by the end of this calendar year. So in total, that is paying $22,000 towards the principal to be able to drop that PMI. So going into the year, from December into January of 2022, our balance was $353,515. And as of the end of June, it is $343,955, meaning we have paid $9,560 towards the principal. So again, I always stress towards the principal because we pay more than that towards interest, but that money doesn't go anywhere because we're paying interest. So it's not affecting the bottom line of what we owe. So previously our payment was around $1,900. We have it built in where we pay an additional $100 on top of that because I liked it being a nice even number. So it was $2,000.50. So that was really convenient. Then our mortgage payment changed because of our escrow. We had an overage in our escrow, so then they rebalanced our payment and the payment actually dropped to like $1,885, but again we have that 100, so it's $1,985.79, so it's an odd amount. The website didn't let me, recalculate how much additional so I could make it that nice even number again. But that's fine since I always make additional payments every month on top of what pre-programmed to come out on the 1st. So again, the payment includes the interest and our escrow because we pay our homeowners through there as well. So when I calculate how much remaining we have to go, we have almost $12,000 still to go. So we're not even technically halfway there, but when I think about it, every month we're paying more and more towards principal and less on interest. So as you go, that graph kind of flips where you're putting more towards principal and less towards interest. But that's something that's really big when you're first starting out with a mortgage, because again, we've only owned our house for less than 2 years, that you pay way more in interest every month than you do towards your principal payment. So it's hard to see any progress that way because you're spending all this money, but it's hardly putting a dent in it, and that can be very deflating. So we plan to get a little bit more aggressive towards this goal, probably starting in July. We're wrapping up our other financial goal of maxing out my Roth IRA, and we anticipate having that done in the next couple of weeks for sure. So then we'll have some additional funds to be able to put towards that mortgage every single month to make sure that we can accomplish that goal. So it's kind of a little bit funny that we have such a big goal and what we're actually trying to accomplish. So the goal of dropping the PMI, it can seem kind of silly because it's only $48.67 a month that we're paying. But it's kind of the principle behind it that you're paying this extra almost $50 a month for nothing. And it's not that we are, just trying to do it to drop that and save $50, but all of that does compound. So all this extra that we're putting towards the principal is ultimately shortening the life of the loan as well. So it's not just to save $50 a month. So the website also calculates kind of some numbers for you. So it gives me like a little pie chart, and it shows me that as of year to date, so January through June of 2022, that 66% of the money that we have paid in payments has actually gone towards principal. And like I mentioned, that is huge because typically in the beginning of paying on your mortgage, you're paying way more in interest than you are in principal. So for example, even currently, we still are paying more in interest than we are in principal on our standard payment. So that shows that all of those extra contributions are really making a big difference, considering that we've kind of flipped that and are paying more in principal than we are in interest. So that's really exciting to see. There's also a grid that I track every single month that shows your percentage up to as you're working towards that 20%, owning 20% equity in your home. So that's something I track every single month. And currently we're at 17.1% of the 20%. So it's kind of exciting to get to see that number steadily increasing as well. I also just pulled the amortization schedule, which shows, over the life of a 30-year loan, as your payment and you're paying and the interest and principal and everything is slowly coming down, and eventually at the end of the 30 years, you're down to zero. So in looking at that, it showed me that the end of our loan, as we've currently paid up to now, that we're 10 months ahead of schedule in paying that off. So that's exciting to see. So that in about a year and a half, a little more than that we've owned this home, we've already been able to knock off 10 months of payments. So that's really exciting to see. The other thing is I kind of wanted to I want to show you visually. I'm a very visual person, so I like those graphs, those numbers. I also track this in a Google sheet where I can see our progress. So I've made this chart where we can track every single month as we pay on that principal and interest. I do break those out separately so I can see, every month we're paying a little bit less in interest and a little bit more in principal, and that's exciting to see as well. But I made this graph so that I can track our progress for this year on a smaller scale so that you can see that difference more versus, starting at 340 some or whatever, 350, and trying to pay it down to zero. Like, that's not going to look like I'm making progress, and that can be, discouraging. So instead, I made it just for this year of what we're trying to accomplish to pay it down to $332,000, which is the point where we would have 20% equity, be able to request dropping that PMI. So in this chart, it's easy to see, I go back prior to the first of this year in this chart, but you can see it was kind of just a slow progress. But then as of January, where we made this more of a priority, you can see bigger progress every month as that the bar graph is getting smaller and smaller. So that's motivating as well to be able to see that progress every single month as we progress towards getting it down to that 332. So I wanted to talk through a little bit as well on, I've mentioned in some of my Transfer Tuesday videos, how I tackle this. How do I decide how much I'm paying? So I mentioned our current balance. So going into July, our payment process is on the first of the month. So our current balance is $343,955.81. Our standard payment is $1,885.79. So just looking back, how that actually breaks out, about $800 of that goes straight to interest. So throwing money out the window. $700 only of that actually goes towards the principal payment. About $400 of that goes to that escrow account, which I think is also where they then pull out that PMI insurance. And then also the escrow for our homeowners insurance. And then on top of that, as part of my standard payment, an additional $100 will go towards the principal. So it ends up being $1,985.79 that comes out of my bank account. And then the PMI insurance payment, that $48.67, that doesn't process at the beginning of the month. That one's more in the middle of the month when that monthly charge occurs. So what I would do when I'm looking at this, if we take that beginning balance, so going in that $343,956, if we round it up, minus the, well, I did that wrong, but minus the 1885, but it's also going to be an additional 100 that would come out. It's going to bring me right around $342,000. So what I then do is, depending on what that number is, so I calculated this wrong, and I'm not going to redo my math at the moment. So we'll just pretend that that's what it was. And the payment then, or what we owe, should be around $342,071. Then whatever that number is, usually it's not that close to the 1,000. I would then, in this scenario, pay at least $75 to knock it below $342,000. That's kind of the little mind game that I play with myself to help, progress. Every little bit towards principal is going to help. So in this case, because I didn't include the extra 100 that I do, that's actually going to knock me below $342,000 anyways. And I can do an update after the fact of, and it will probably be in my Transfer Tuesday video, where when I make those additional payments that week, where I can talk about what I decided to do. So because it's actually going to be less than $342,000, I'm not sure that I will pay another $900 and some dollars towards principal, since I'm still working on that Roth IRA. As of like July 1st, that will still be a goal that we probably are working on. But that's kind of how I attack it, so that I'm forcing myself to make those payments and knocking it down by the 1,000th. I've also mentioned I have my chart that I follow. So every time I pay $1,000, I get to mark off another box on my grid. So that is motivating for me as well, to be able to check one of those off every time that we make those additional payments. Sorry, the dinosaur toy is now going off. So that's how I keep myself motivated and making progress on this every single month. So again, hoping to make more progress once we knock out that Roth IRA. We have some additional reimbursement payments coming our way that will help towards that as well, but we're also going to use some of that for fun and some, I think, a family vacation. So I just wanted to break down our thought process, how we attack it, the progress that we've made year to date as we're halfway through. I think at the end of the year, I will create another video like this where I recap, and hopefully, I'm pretty confident that we will have achieved this goal and be able to show that progress throughout the entire year to be able to achieve that goal. I'd love to answer any questions you have or any comments about our process, and I will update again, as I mentioned, in our Transfer Tuesday videos. I typically do that in the beginning of the month when that payment processes, and then again I will update at the end of the year or beginning of next year, depending on when we hit that goal and can submit to request that PMI be dropped. So that's all for me today. I just wanted to provide a little bit more, since I talk about this frequently, a little more background on our process. So I hope you have a great day.